From running for mayor of North Charleston to the latest on the Charleston County School Board, I sit down one-on-one with Pastor Thomas Dixon for this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel and download my free Quintin's Close-Ups app in your Apple or Google Play stores. And listen to this interview later on iHeartRadio. Pastor Thomas Dixon, how you doing, Quintin? Oh, great, here. And welcome back to the award-winning Quintin's Close-Ups.
Yes, it's an honor and a privilege to be sitting with you once again.
Oh, I appreciate it.
2020.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
2020. There's so much going on right now. Even in February. The Charleston County School Superintendent resigned. Mm-hmm. You have a possible legislation with the Charleston County School District. Mm-hmm. Obviously, Mother Judy Scott passed away.
Yes.
What are the 4 words that would describe Pastor Thomas Dixon as a community activist right now?
I'm just going to do 2 words.
Okay.
Stretched out.
Wow.
Stretched out. Coming off of the campaign last year, and then entering into 2020 with all of these things happening. You know, a lot of them are residuals from last year, especially with the school board and things of that sort. And then, you know, of course, with the sudden pop-up of the passing of Mrs. Scott, unexpected passing of Mrs. Scott, and then the regular things that are happening. It's just busy. It's just busy, you know. But that's all right. Busy means there's work to do.
Okay.
And as long as there's work to do, that means that we'll just keep on working, you know, keep on trying to get things right for people, you know.
You talk about coming off of the campaign. Obviously, you ran unsuccessfully for mayor of North Charleston.
Mm-hmm.
What did you do wrong?
Great question. I think I overestimated the ability of people to translate activism, care, and concern into votes. I think our community has been disenfranchised for so long that participating in the voting process, it wasn't that time for it. I think I have more ground to plow in order to increase voter participation, which is actually, that's my focus. That's one of my primary focuses now. Because to have another 22% or less or 30% voter participation in any election is ridiculous. And so what did I do wrong? I think I assumed that because the community has seen me put in work, that the community would say, okay, let's support this candidate. Right along with the fact that there was a negative campaign that was tossed into the mix with that, but that's, you know, that is what it is. That's somebody says that's politics. I say that's just a bunch of lying, cheating, and conniving type of stuff that we don't need in politics, but it is what it is. So if I had a do-over in order to increase participation, I think I would probably just spend more time, much more time, you know, in the community, much more.
You talked about, obviously, and we all noticed that you are an activist and you have a lot of activism going on in the community and beyond here in the state. How much of your activism brought up that amount of votes as far as North Charleston mayor?
It didn't translate into votes, you know, unfortunately. Like I said, I'm not exactly sure why it didn't. The turnout. I mean, I didn't really get a lot of votes as far as I'm concerned. You know, it should have been quite a larger voter participation in support of my candidacy, because as a proven advocate in the community, somebody that the day before the election, my phone was getting calls about people in need or whatever. Can you help me do this? And the day after, the same thing was going on and continues to this day. For some reason or other, the community didn't go out and vote. I'm going to chalk it up to the voter apathy that we've consistently run into. We have a community that has, I think, unconsciously decided that they're not going to participate in elections because they've grown up, especially 18 to 40-year-olds. They have seen their parents grow up saying, you got to vote, you got to vote, doing their civic duty, with the obligation based on the work that was done in the civil rights era. We stand on the backs of those then, and let's do our civic duty. Well, those 18 to 40-year-olds went to the polls with their parents, and their parents were telling them, you got to vote, you got to vote. And, well, why are we voting? We're voting so we can have better communities. And they sat there and watched as they voted, and they voted, and they voted, and the communities never got better. The communities actually got worse around them. Like communities where they don't have street lights, no sidewalks, communities where the buildings were all dilapidated, where they couldn't go to a grocery store and shop, communities where there's heavy gun violence and no parks, nice parks or playgrounds, and no community activities or whatever. And so as growing up, it's like, well, why should I vote? Why should I participate in this system? You said that if you vote, you get stuff. And then we see these politicians that show up every 4 years or every 2 years, and they promise us all of this, and that's the only time that we hear from them. We never see the fruit of the promise. So we have a large segment of our community that has, I think, unconsciously decided, I just don't want to be a part of it. Now, my job was to try to convince them the other way around it. As somebody who, like I said, my phone rang before the election, my phone rings now. To translate that into, well, maybe we can really believe in this guy here, that he's not a politician, he's a public servant, and maybe we can actually get out and vote for him. That was my reasoning, and apparently maybe this just wasn't the right season, maybe it wasn't the right time.
You talk about season, and you obviously talked about fruit of the promise. What part of the fruit in that promise do you want Mayor Keith Summey to do as far as improving North Charleston in your mind?
You got a harder question. Because in my mind, Mayor Summey is not going to do anything on the level that would suit my ideas. I just don't believe that that his focus is the same focus that I have. Here we are now, the first week in February. The swearing in was 3 weeks ago. The election was in the first week in November. And a lot of the things that were put on the table, such as raising minimum wage, such as decreasing gun violence, there are a plethora of things that were put on the table, and we haven't heard anything from City Hall talking about doing anything. When? Had I been elected, the community would have already heard that we've brought all of our chamber to the table, our small businesses and big businesses to the table in order to figure out how we're going to pay people $15 an hour. The community would have heard that like a week ago because it would have already been implemented, going into place. We've been putting the groundwork for it. The community would have heard from me as mayor, giving my input on the school district's disrespect of the legislative delegation, the 8 failing schools in North Charleston, and my support of single-member districts. There are things that the mayor, and by the way, that $17,000 increase that he got didn't come in incrementally. It came all incrementally like he did for the salaries inside of City Hall workers for 2 years' time. They got a little bit here and a little there. Okay. When he said, I swear in, he got his 17 grand right then. My plan was to, since I know so many different nonprofits and organizations that are not even nonprofits but doing good work, I was going to distribute that money amongst them in order to invest that back into the community. I live on Social Security. I get $800 a month. I'm happy. I'm doing all right. That's $17,000 that they did not have to agree to give him additionally. That money, had I won the election, was going right back into the community with the groups that I know that are doing good work for the people.
what communities would need that money right now?
Yeah, we can look at that. We can. When I say communities, I mean the organizations, the areas of organizations,
Okay.
the different people like Project Street Outreach that's working with homeless people, those that are working with our labor folks, you know, those that are working with our seniors. You know, we have different organizations that are working in these areas, and they struggle because they don't have any help, any outside help, and any financial help. Many of them, especially the 501s, the non-501c3s, they don't really get donations like, you know, your nonprofits do. So, but they're still putting in work, and they really do need help. They really do need help. So I could have definitely taken that money and made sure that they got that help, that financial help.
Let me go back to what you said earlier. Obviously, you talked about the lack of voters, obviously, in the last election as far as mayor of North Charleston. When you look at Dorchester County, how much activism as far as your image was felt there?
In Dorchester County?
Yes, sir.
As far as me personally?
Yes, sir.
It's not as pronounced as in Charleston County, but the work that I do, it transcends Charleston County because people, word of mouth, people spread the word. I get calls from Dorchester County, Berkeley County. I'm currently working somewhat in Walterboro, in Colleton County in Walterboro, doing some organizing there and beginning to work also in Orangeburg.
Okay.
So the footprint that started in Charleston County is getting ready to actually expand as I expand the operations of the coalition into these various areas. So the impact on Dorchester County, I think that just the work that I do has given people of Dorchester and the surrounding, the Tri-County area and even beyond, an understanding that they have somebody that they can turn to, that they can depend on, that they can trust with the issues that they have, to at least try to address them even if I can't. That's why I really wanted to be mayor. I mean, I could have really addressed some issues then. Tomorrow, I'll be in Conway,
Right.
South Carolina. Yeah.
Coastal Carolina, that's where my brother goes.
I'll be in Conway with an African American Black History Month event.
Right.
You know, so I'm definitely not relegated to this one little spot. And now that I have the time, even though it's busy and I am stretched, I'm stretched out, I can still spread out to the different locations that I need to get to. Mike
Want you. Speaking of which, let me take you down to Colleton County, because this is some developing news coming from Channel 5 and from Paula Trisser, who reads this. Colleton County School District Superintendent Franklin Foster has resigned. The school board says he signed a separation agreement on Friday, and his official last day is February 8th. The board is in an executive session right now at the time to discuss the next steps. And I understand from his statement to the Colleton County School Board, reads this, quote, "I hope this email finds you well. I want to share with you that the Colleton County School Board of Trustees and I have mutually agreed to end my employment contract as superintendent. This decision came after a great deal of reflection for me, both personally and professionally, and did not come quickly or easily." What is your reflection of the Colleton County School Superintendent as a community activist?
I'm not impressed with it, to be honest with you. I've been the same issues that we've been fighting with Charleston County with the school district are the same issues that we fight with in Colleton County with the school district. As you see, you started out by saying, you know, they went into executive session. Right. These private meetings, these secret meetings, because really what he, you know, that statement that was just issued, there's a whole lot of nothing. It doesn't say why he's leaving. It doesn't say why the board is accepting that resignation to go. There has to be a reason behind it, you know. Now, anything other than I'm sick or my family's got to move somewhere, anything other than that, and see, people have a tendency to say if they're leaving a position, okay, I'm not well, I need to step away. My family's relocating. Right? They say that. But when it's these other things, and this is just speculation on my behalf, but I got 30 years of street in me, and I'm pretty decent about reading, folks. That says that there was a problem why he's leaving. I think it also said that his last day to get paid is going to be Saturday. So that means that there's really no You know, I don't know what type of severance package they might have come up with, but this seems like it might be punitive, either punitive or that there's something that the board might be wanting to do that he might not want to do. Now, he's been the board guy since he's been there, right? And has created major problems with the community. Right along with that board has created major problems with the community because of their secrecy and their private meetings and their doings this and doing that. Some things that we're going to be addressing, and I will say that on camera right now, we're going to be addressing those things this year. It's not going, the status quo is not going to continue. But I'd really like for Dr. Foster to just come out and say, you know, what happened, or the board to say what happened, why is he leaving, you know, and not to say something that's been created or makes for a good soundbite or a nice press release, but what's the real? What's the truth behind it? Why is he just all of a sudden dropping this resignation out there?
The average viewer might be looking back at this and saying, hey, we're not even right. Other incidents within the Charleston County School District. Is there some sort of investigation that we don't know about in your mind?
There's a strong possibility that there is some type of investigation going on behind the scenes. I mean, there's still been the same fighting and incidences, and just recently another incident similar to the Renaya Wrights situation. But it would only be speculation for me to say that this is going on. But whatever it is, the root of the problem there lies in the same problem that we have with the Charleston County Board. This lack of transparency. These people who are appointed to these positions that feel that their accountability is not to the people, but to themselves. And they feel like they have all of the answers, and without the input of the people or allowing the people to be involved in the process, without allowing teachers to be a part of the process, they make policy and procedure, and they move forward in secrecy and under the couch of an executive session. And the reality is these are public servants, and their job is to serve the public and to listen to the public and to invite the public in and to welcome the public and to listen to what the public has to say. But for some reason or other, the definition of elected official has changed.
What's your definition of it?
A public servant. All of the things that I just mentioned is what an elected official is supposed to do. And I don't care what level of elected official it is. We are a government that is set up of the people, by the people, and for the people. Not of the elected official, by the elected official, or for the elected official. Anytime we have government that supersedes the voice of the people, it's time for the people to check that government. And we're at that point right now that the people have got to check the government. The problem being, the primary way to check the government, and actually the easiest and the most non-confrontational way, is at the ballot box. It's through the vote. And that's why I'm focusing now on trying to increase voter participation so we can begin to address these issues and confront these issues in that non-confrontational method at the ballot box.
Would you ever consider yourself, or let me ask this way, would you ever envision yourself being on the Charleston County School Board in the future?
No. But I can see myself continuing to try to vet good people and to support good people that I know that will represent people. I've been fooled. I've been deceived in the past by some people. Our current chair in Charleston County deceived me. Talked a good game. When he got in there, he became the problem. And I've seen that same thing happen in the streets in my years in the streets. Some people just got good game. And but still in all moving forward, there need to be changes made. I'm not a fit for the school board. I don't believe I'm fit for the school board because of the educational experience. So my pressure and my press is always going to be for whatever elected officials, whatever service they have, for them to actually be servants. So that's who I will be looking to vet and to support along the way. Those for school board positions, those who have that experience, not necessarily a bunch of initials after their names, but that experience, that heart to help. They've been in the community. They've been trying to make change. They've seen problems and not been silent about problems, but have spoken up about them because it's for the good of the people. Those are the people that I'm looking to identify and to vet and to help the community to understand that this person or that person might have their best interests at heart, opposed to, say, somebody that's just been in the seat for a long time, or somebody that just showed up out of nowhere, or somebody they haven't seen in 4 years and is just running for office.
As a disclaimer, I have reached out to Kate Darby several times. No response.
Mm-hmm.
City Bond Coast gave me a newspaper reporter's type comment.
Mm-hmm.
Kevin Hollisher did sit down with me on Saturday, and I'm hoping to speak with Todd Garrett and a couple other people soon.
Mm-hmm.
But let me go to what Sarah Shad Johnson wrote on her Facebook page, and I believe you just shared it a couple of days ago. She's one of the constituent school board members in the Mount Pleasant area.
Mm-hmm.
She says this: these are some points to keep in mind when it comes to the Charleston County School District. First, the other large schools, South Carolina school districts, that is, Greenville, Horry, and Berkeley, all have single-member districts. What exactly will single-member districts do to the Charleston County School District?
A lot of the conversation that we've just had has been about the voice of the people being heard. Single-member districts opens up an avenue for the community to actually have one person from their area responsible for to meet their needs and their wishes, as opposed to this at-large situation that we have, where people get elected because of a collective vote, not according to the needs of a particular community. So with the single-member district, like you said, Berkeley County right there,
Right.
and they're doing all right. They're doing fair because the people feel like their voice is being heard. When we talked about the voting, people have stopped voting because their voice has not been heard. The elected officials just go out and do what they want to do. The way our school board is set up right now, that's exactly how they operate. And the voice of the people, it has to be heard. And single member districts, one of the things that it will do, it will afford that avenue for the voice of the people to be heard. Also, it's a fact that in at-large districts, the voice that's usually not heard are poor people. And in the district, those are the ones whose voice gets minimized with at-large districts. But with single-member district, that voice gets magnified. So it has its advantages over the at-large system. And we're at a point right now where we've been an at-large system for a long time, and we have the worst schools in the worst state in the United States, right here in our county, Charleston County.
And she also says this too, quote, our last school board election was bought by a dark money special interest group whose strategy was dependent upon a county-wide large race.
Mm-hmm.
What will be their strategy after this particular school district goes to a single-member district strategy?
The dark money people?
Yes, sir.
I hope their strategy is to go straight. That's it, to quit doing dirt, Let the people speak. Let's not try to direct the lives of people because we have money. Let's not try to do that. Let's let the people speak and let the voice of the people be heard, as opposed to the voice of money being heard. That dump and all that $700,000, it's alleged, was dumped into the midterm elections in 2018. That got 4 people elected to the board, and then an additional 5th person that was brought on later.
Chris Frazier.
Yeah, who was a previous board member.
Right.
Yeah, and certain people were overlooked that were highly qualified for that 5th seat. But that gave a majority. That was a seriously bought majority. Everybody from your chair to the vice chair to the longest, next to the longest member of the board. Wow, they just pulled it, and the newest member, and then a returning board member. We cannot allow in politics, okay, period. I'm not just going to say Charleston County School District, but in politics, period. It's time to get money out of politics. We need to repeal Citizens United on the federal level and put limits on monies that can be donated into campaigns, and make sure that that's enforced, so that people cannot buy elections. You know, the Bible says that the borrower is slave to the lender, and so in these situations where one organization will pump hundreds of thousands of dollars in order to get somebody elected, there's a reason that those folks got to give something back. They didn't just say, okay, we really love you. You're just a great people. We're going to spend $700,000 to get you elected, and then have a great day because we know you're going to do a great job. That's not why they put that money in there. No, they said we're going to get you elected because we need something. We want something.
Also, she says this too. Our three North Charleston representatives were the only ones who opposed acceleration zone plans that affect a large number of North Charleston schools. Who's really accountable in an at-large system, she asks. The acceleration zone plans. What plans should they have for that right now?
I'm personally unsure. Okay, on that, I have to refer to those that are more educationally inclined on that. My focus right now is to ensure that we move forward with the representation aspect of the people, so that in the end, I'm quite sure, even under single member districts, that they will take into consideration whatever the acceleration zone process is. I'm sure they will take into consideration the merging of schools. They will take all these things into consideration. And whatever the school board is doing now, should that board be replaced by election through single member districts, should that board be replaced, those new representatives will look at what they're doing, and anything that's viable, they will keep, and anything that's not, they will throw out. So, but any way it goes, though, they will be representing the voice of the people, something that the people right now don't believe that this board is doing.
Let me stay in North Charleston and go up to the Charleston International Airport. This is the headline from the okay. This is the headline from the PostandCourier.com, and this is their headline, not associated with Quintin's close-ups. It reads this: Elliot Summey's connections landed him a $290,000 a year job as Charleston Airport CEO. You said this on Dixon Justice Facebook page, quote, "I'm going to just post this for now. Trust me, there's the next step. Stand by." What is the next step?
The actual mechanisms of the next step are being worked on, and they're being worked on with different people, different organizations right now, on how we as a community are going to respond to that. Because we're at a junction in time where, and this is just another blatant display of the good old boy system, that we're at a junction in time where people are kind of tired of that system and are ready to do what it takes in order to dismantle the good old boy system. And what a better place to start than right here with Elliot Summey. That whole system, it's crazy. As a matter of fact, his predecessor, Paul Campbell, or soon to be predecessor, Paul Campbell, it should have stopped with him, but it's lingered, it stayed. So now there are voices in the community that are ready to galvanize and are galvanizing. And without going into the specifics of what's next, there is a follow-up. There is a next step. So for anybody that thinks that he's just gotten put in this position and there's going to be nothing or no backlash and the community is just, oh, well, it's just a great job. No, not anymore. Anytime that the community recognizes the unjust practices of the good old boy system in place, the community at this point is beginning to rally and to ensure that that those issues get addressed in a very loud manner. Frederick Douglass, he coined the phrase that the truth that power concedes nothing without demand. It never has and it never will. But he said the extent that power will push itself is directly related to the amount that the people will take. So in other words, if the power will keep on as long as you don't do anything. We're at that junction right now in time where the community is going to do something.
I have to reread this article, this headline from the Post and Courier, and it reads this: Elliot Summey's connections landed him a $290,000 a year job as Charleston Airport CEO. What are those alleged connections in your mind?
Elliot's been, I'm gonna use the term connected, and I don't want folks to hear the word connected and put it back to mob ties, because I know that, back in the day we used to say people were connected, and it meant that you were connected to the underworld and things like that. But within the good old boy system, it's a matter of quid pro quo. You do for me, I do for you. That's how affiliations and connections are made, ties are made. So over time, I do believe that Elliot has literally made those type of connections. Look, he's worked along with Donald Trump's son and Jeremy Blackburn, who profited over $30 million off of Naval Hospital. And he's had his hands in the cookie jar, allegedly had his hand in the cookie jar. He's made racial epithets about one of his co-counsel people, a couple of them, as a matter of fact. Made a statement about Teddy Price, saying that, Teddy has his head all so far up my daddy's butt, But he still does these things and come out smelling like roses, So that takes a certain amount of pull to keep doing this and consistently moving up the ladder, consistently. So now he's moved up the ladder to a position paying almost $300,000 a year. A job that was advertised, and I think they got like 82 applicants or something like that, and it was whittled down to 39, that they disregarded totally in order to give him this job. Give, not earn, not be qualified for, not have the resume for, but give him this job. It takes connections in order to get that done.
When you look at his resume, what do you see? What sticks out in your mind?
I think he has on paper, as far as the places he's worked, you don't put negative things on a resume. So there's a lot that you'll see on a resume that will really look great, but there's an alternative resume that should list all of the other things. And I don't know Elliot that well, and but I know that he's well connected through his family ties. You go back to that term, connected, through his family ties, through his dad, and his career has not been a stellar one above board, and definitely has had some very, very bad moments, in it. But this system that we're in, and that's why I say, it's about the system. It's not about Elliot. Elliot is a victim of the system, a system that his dad has helped to support, a system that people like Henry McMaster and Molly Spearman and Nikki Haley and Donald Trump and the list goes on and on, Mike Pence and all of them. It's a system that they perpetuate, and it's about the haves having it and the have-nots not having it. And that's why we can see a city like North Charleston that has prospered, that sits inside of Charleston County. North Charleston, Mayor Keith Summey, his son, Elliot Summey, County Council. But we look within this city, one of the most prosperous, actually the most prosperous in the state, and we have a poverty level 50% above the national average, with a population that's just under 50% African American, and another 10% or so brown people, broke people, not prospering people, in a county, because we got to talk about Elliott County, in a county where we have 9 of the worst schools in the entire state of South Carolina. And our growth and development is great. You're making money hand over fist. But the things that are benefiting our community are lacking. And that's where the haves continue to pad themselves and where they're at in order to keep on having them and their families, while the have-nots are expendable. Their lives don't matter.
You talked earlier about obviously the Naval Hospital. When you look at that process right now to where it actually started, what still plays in your mind?
I'm totally frustrated over that building. Had they done what they could have done when it was first obtained for a couple of $1 million, that building would have been up and running right now, and we would not be having conversations about homeless, people who are being evicted, not having a place to go. We wouldn't even have those conversations. We wouldn't have people that are running around all over trying to catch buses to get to this location to go see about VA, or that location about DSS, or another location about this service or that service, because they were all been right there. I'm frustrated when I think about Naval Hospital. Maybe when it's not there any longer, I'll start to wind down from that. But as long as the care of the people has been that's neglected and overlooked, I can't get over my frustration over it. And that was a prime opportunity to be used for the good of the people.
And I want to make a disclaimer that I would love to interview Elliot something about taking over his new airport job. So he's welcome on Quintin's Close-Ups.
Absolutely.
But I want to stay in North Charleston once again and go back to City Hall, because obviously Reggie Burgess will be staying as police chief of North Charleston.
Mm-hmm.
How frustrated were you with that process? Of him being a nominee for the public safety.
In retrospect, my first thought was, because I'm a skeptic. I try to be that type of believer that's just going to believe you right off the bat. But I got 30 years of street in me that says question things, and the timing of it. I do believe that Henry McMaster might have talked to Mayor Summey prior to the election about that, and the word was, no, not right now. I need him in that spot until after the election. We can't move him right now. Because we see as soon as the election was over, that's when the announcement was made that he's going to be moving to the state position. And then the process that he encountered. So my frustrations originally were with the fact that his move, his promotion, or the possibility of his promotion, might have been delayed because of the election. But then I'm proud. I mean, Reggie he's a great guy. He's a great law enforcement officer, and definitely great for the city of North Charleston under the right leadership, and would definitely be great for the state of South Carolina. I have no reservations in saying that whatsoever. But then when he went to Columbia for the, to talk about getting the job, he ran into some opposition, which is something that we always run into as black folks. Folks like to dig up our past. When you can, I don't care what you do. Walter Scott, before he was even lifeless on the ground, they were talking about him and his child support. No matter what we do, we can expect for our past to be dug up. I mean, in this election, there were attacks on my history, even though for the last 19 years, 20 years now, I haven't had. I think I had one traffic violation in 20 years, I think, and I took care of that. And because I told the officer, "Yep, I was definitely wrong," But in the election season, in the election cycle last year, apparently somebody felt it was just good to just put my whole past out. So if we do that to ourselves, imagine what others will do. So when he ran into that situation and in the interview process where they dug up this thing about the taxes and whatever. You know, for me, it's a frustration because I knew that he would be frustrated. But we got to understand that this is what this system does. Somebody did not want him in that position.
Some people might be sitting here watching this, and obviously it's alleged tax liens that he had against him.
Mm-hmm.
But some people feel like he should have been forthcoming with that information.
Mm-hmm.
When you hear that, what do you say?
I would say that, especially since it was in I think he said it was like the early 90s or something like that, and he actually paid that. You know, it's like me with look how many years and body of work has he put in since then, where there's nothing to dig up. There are no skeletons. There are no more bones. It's the same as me coming out of the prison system in 2001 until now. The body of work that I've done since then was neglected in order to dig up something that might just trigger someone. He should have been able to not have to do that, you know, not even have to put that on it. It probably didn't even cross his mind because it's been so long ago, and he took care of it. You know, I was talking to somebody the other day. You know, it's just amazing how yesterday, as a matter of fact, it's just amazing how the sins of our past as African Americans, it lingers so long. But when the sins of others, their past, they don't linger that long. We can do something and go to prison and come out, and forever it's a burden in our life. Whereas some of our white counterparts will go to prison and they come back out and they go right back to work and everything, and it's assimilated right back into society. No problem. Bankruptcies is a good case. I know folks, black folks, filed bankruptcy and it carries with them for life. I'm thinking white folks, the bankruptcy 3, 4, 5 times. Look at Donald Trump. And he's the president. Nobody said that it doesn't make any difference, you know, it's good to go. But for us as African Americans in America, we carry a stigma of history that we can never get rid of because we're judged based on actually the loopholes that the society that we live in, those are the things that they're looking for in order to keep us from progressing. And that frustrated Reggie to the point where Reggie said, I'm out of this process.
And then again, some people might be sitting here watching this saying, well, if he wasn't forthcoming with tax liens, what else was he forthcoming with?
Mm-hmm. That's the word is forthcoming. You know, he's the chief of police. Before that, he was the deputy chief.
Right.
And he's been in law enforcement all of this time.
Right.
And he took care of it when it happened. And regardless of whatever the circumstances were that created it, it could have been just strictly by accident. Things happen that way. But he took care of it. So when do we get to that point where we don't have to just lay our entire history on the table, when we've had a body of history since that history that overrides and supersedes all of that, especially once you've taken care of it. It's the same thing with, for me, and the body of work I've done since coming out of the prison system, 20 years now. I'm just rounding up, 20 years now. But anytime I fill out an application, I still have to check that box. When is the debt paid? And when I check that box, and somebody that doesn't know me or the body of work that I've done, they take that application and they look, and the first thing they say, oh, this is a felon. He's been in prison. Without even thinking about the work that I've tried to do in order to enrich our community and better the lives of people for 20 years. Why do we have to have that stipulation still there? Why do we still have to have that sword hanging over us for things that have been done in the past like that? When you got somebody, I'm going to go back to our beloved president, the occupant of the White House, somebody who admittedly sexually abused women without their permission, now who who has been impeached. But no, he's been impeached. Okay, he just wasn't. He didn't go to court. That's all in the Senate. He didn't go to court. The impeachment's going to stand forever. But he wasn't fully impeached. It didn't get to trial. But all of the things that he's done in his life, the bankruptcies, the draft dodging, all of these things, none of that makes a difference though for him. So why should he? And he wasn't forthcoming with any of that. He didn't come up and start running for president and say, they had to catch him on tape, right? Talking about grabbing stuff, right? This was a video. He didn't come up and just say, I intentionally avoided going to Vietnam. He didn't come up and say, I had these bankruptcies, but 7 times or whatever. All of the different discrepancies that we have in him, he didn't have to come up and be forthright with all of that. So why is it that we have to live by this other standard? Why is it that we always have to be the ones that are forthright with everything when there are others out here? Why is it that Elliot Summey can go into that job without even stopping to say, let me be forthright about this. I don't have any experience in this. I never worked in aviation before. I don't know anything like that. No, he didn't have to be forthright about anything. He just said, I'll take the job. Thank you. But why us? Why Reggie? Why me?
Why is race in this conversation, in your mind?
Because much of what we see in our society is based on race, because of the fact that our millennials have not gotten old enough to take over our society. Our Gen Xers, Ys, and Zers are going into our society, and this old system that we live in was raised on race. Bias, conscious and unconscious bias. And a lot of the things that are in place, we're dismantling that now, I do believe, through these next generations. Okay. But a lot of those that are in place right now, they've built a society that's based on race. And a lot of it is unconscious racism. Let's just take, for example, our school board. Let me go back to school board again. Okay. How can a school board that is made up of people who don't understand the children or the conditions that they live in, how can they effectively set policy and procedure that's going to take care of those children and take care of them well? Especially when they never stop and ask that community, the community that they're serving, what do you think is wrong and how can we help that? How can we help it? Instead, they make an assumption. They figure, okay, I'm that one, so I can tell them how it needs to work. And it doesn't work that way. We don't do that when we go to see a doctor. When we go to walk into the doctor, go see the doctor, first thing the doctor looks at and says, what's wrong? Tell me about what's wrong. Where does it hurt? And we tell them what's going on. And then from that point, the doctor makes an assessment on how we're going to treat the issue. But with our school board, with our city councils, with some of our mayors, with our General Assembly, a 2/3 Republican General Assembly, I will say, instead of asking the community, tell me where it hurts. What do you think about it? How do you feel? And then we'll decide how to fix it. Instead of doing that, then, we know what we're doing. We got this. We got this. And the reality is the racial makeup of the patient weighs heavily on how the system is, the symptoms are diagnosed and what the procedure is to fix it. We have to deal with people according to who they are, where they're from, and what their background is about. MUSC, I applaud the pediatrics department at MUSC because they started a program just last year for their interns. Okay. And their interns now just coming in, they take a tour through the blighted areas, the poor areas of North Charleston. Myself and Daryl Capleton, we actually did the first one, and we're looking forward to this next one. but in order to give them an understanding of what they're going to be dealing with, instead of having this assumption of what the community is like. So that when patients walk in, they're automatically assuming, well, this person, this, according to their minds. But now they've had an opportunity to ride through, to hear the conversations about the community, to see the hardships of the people that they're going to be interacting with. And hopefully this will give them another level of compassion that will help them to really not only ask, where does it hurt, but to embrace the responses that they get, because now they can empathize with the communities and the 24/7 lifestyles that they are actually going to be treating. We need to be able to do that in many different areas and aspects of life.
Pastor Thomas Dixon, thank you so much for your time. And again, welcome back to the award-winning Quintin Close-Ups. And I hope to get Reggie Burgess on to explain what's going on in Columbia and beyond. But thank you for your time as always.
Quintin, thank you. I really appreciate you.
Likewise.
All right. Keep up the great work.
I definitely will.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.